All right, here's the thing. You are not lazy because you want to be. You wouldn't have clicked on this video if that were the case. You want to change. You would love to lay your head on the pillow at night and feel satisfied with yourself. But something is hindering that bridge between thought and action. That's what we're going to change today. Laziness is not about doing nothing. That actually takes a lot of effort and a lot of self-control. You might actually be very busy throughout the day, but you never accomplish anything meaningful or lasting. Or you're actively avoiding, stalling, escaping. Whatever it looks like, you are doing something. But laziness is rarely the problem in itself. It is usually a symptom of a deeper problem. And unless you address that, the root cause, no morning routine, no productivity hack, no amount of shaming yourself is ever going to fix it. Long term, that is. So in this video, we are going to address 7 raw roots of laziness that you might not even have attributed it to before, and actionable practical steps you can take today to overcome them, so you can start operating out of purpose and potential. My goal for this video is not to provide a black and white blueprint. Here's your problem, here's the solution. What's causing your laziness today might not be what causes it in 5 years. So my goal is by the end of this video, you have a deeper understanding of yourself and you're really thinking about the way that you approach life and work. Okay, root cause number 1, you fear going all in because doing so would leave you without excuse if you did not succeed. You know when you were a kid and you did a cartwheel or you sang or played a game in front of another person and they tell you, oh, that wasn't very good. What was your response? I wasn't really trying. It's a similar thing here. You don't actually fear failure, but failing with no excuse left to protect you. You can't invest your absolute best effort and find out it's not good enough for what you wanted to do. I always like to leave a little buffer to protect me from that. There is comfort in knowing the potential is still there, that I still have a chance to achieve this version of myself that I've held in my head for so many years. So instead, you live in a perpetual state of preparing. You're reading more, you're learning more, you're making to-do lists, you're refining those to-do lists, you're practicing in private, you're posting videos, but you're leaving out what you really want to say. You are living in an illusion of effort and progress. But that only protects your ego. It does not protect your potential. This is where you first need to separate the self from the action or the outcome. Even if you invested your absolute best effort and you didn't succeed in the way you intended to, you yourself are not a failure. You may have failed at something, but it does not become your identity as a human being. In fact, you've done what most people never will. But this is why it is so crucial to find your identity in something constant, something that is not contingent on anything that you could do or that other people could give you. And from that meaning flows purpose. And those two things give context to everything else, including your definition of failure. Have you ever seen a book on failure? Nobody would read it. It would not be a bestseller. It's safe to say we have given failure a negative connotation, but what if it doesn't have to be that way? Because failure is inevitable on the road to achieving your purpose. So what if instead you view failure not as a roadblock, but a tool to get there? Now, I'm not denying that failure can't feel devastating, but it is not the end-all be-all, unless you let it be. And how you view it determines how you will profit from it. How many stories have you heard of somebody setting out on one career path and ending up where they never imagined? But they also feel a level of joy and fulfillment that they never imagined either. Some people credit the universe, but it's the good old-fashioned work of the Lord. God knows the person you need to be for your purpose on this earth, and He knows the exact circumstances which will teach you those lessons. This is a lifelong process. It's not fail, fail, fail. Okay, I get into my job, now I'm not going to fail anymore. Now I'm void of suffering. No, God is constantly refining us. He who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Jesus Christ. God has this incredible way of using failure to bring us to that ultimate goal of becoming like Christ. And denying the gifts that He's given me and denying His instruction and succumbing to the desires of my flesh would be the ultimate failure. And that is the real fear. And hand in hand with your idea of failure is your definition of success. We know people don't cope with failure well, but people also don't cope with success very well. I read a book recently called Mindset, and in it asks a question that always stuck with me. Is success about learning or proving that you're smart? If success is about constantly receiving and maintaining a good evaluation from others, it makes sense why it would be scary. It would be exhausting. But if you don't fear your current skills or circumstances as permanent, that fear leaves. Such an evaluation is for a finite moment in your life. You have the capacity to change, and you should change. So are you trying to preserve what you already know, what you already have? Or are you willing to open it up to challenge and reproof and redirection possibly? And if you know your purpose, you will actually chase the latter because it will bring you closer to that purpose and help you better walk in that purpose. Okay, root cause number 2, you have too many options. This one gets me all the time. I don't know how to pick just one, and I don't want to pick the wrong option, so I end up doing nothing, or I just dabble in all of them at once. And both result in the same thing, getting nothing really done. So how do you focus in on just one option and not even worry about the rest? Something that has really helped me is time blocking. When you have too many tabs open, literally or in your mind, it can scare you away. You look at it, you see it all, and you instantly feel like doing nothing. That's why I started time blocking. And I actually created a time blocking template, which I'll link down below, because this has made me so much more productive. I wake up with a plan, I'm not stuck doing the same thing for hours, and I don't even have to worry about whether or not I'll get to the rest because I've already scheduled it out so that I will. And it saves so much mental energy too, especially in the morning when my mental energy is so fragile, because I don't have to waste time deciding what to do or feeling guilty about what I'm not doing. Your body essentially runs on a battery and it drains throughout the day, so don't keep it running when it doesn't need to be. The other thing I'll say about this is don't let perfection be the enemy of good. You don't have to pick the perfect option. You don't have to be in the perfect circumstance to pick the option. You need to pick an option. Most of the time, movement will bring the clarity that you want. Commit to one of your priorities. You will get to the rest later, but only if you focus on one at a time. Produce something first. You can always refine it later. Even with making this video, I stalled for days longer than I wanted to because I wanted to go in depth and I thought about splitting it up into each individual parts, and I was just so worried about missing a piece and whether or not what I was saying was accurate. It almost stopped me from making it all together. At some point, I just have to say, this is good. This is the best I have for where I'm at right now. Perfection is an illusion, and it kills progress or putting out anything for other people to see. Leave the perfection aspect up to God. Do what you can with what you have. This bleeds into root cause number 3. You want to stay in control. You know when you suddenly feel excited or motivated to do something, and the second somebody tells you to do it, that desire dies. There's actually a psychological factor at play here. It's called psychological reactance, and it's your brain's response to a perceived threat of your freedom. It makes you almost want to rebel. And with the whole mindset of perfectionism that we just touched on, oftentimes it's less about wanting excellence and more about wanting control. And going back to the first root cause, if you choose to be lazy, if you choose not to try, you know the outcome. Even if it's not in your best interest, even if it's harming you, having that certainty of outcome is better than what you might find on the other side of risk. And it can feel like freedom, but true freedom doesn't come from gaining control or holding on to control. It actually comes from surrendering it. There's been a reoccurring theme underneath all of these root causes, and that's pride. We want to do things when we feel ready. We want to control the outcome. There is nothing that humbled me more than when I realized that God doesn't need me. He is willing to let me play a part in building his kingdom and then giving me a permanent spot to live in it. But he doesn't have to. He's not forcing me to. So this is not a threat to your personal freedom. God invites you to work with him because he loves you and he wants a relationship with you. And ironically, by accepting that invitation, it is the freest you will ever feel because you are walking in exactly what you were created for. And it's so comforting to know that God doesn't need your perfection. He doesn't want your perfection. That's like an oxymoron. Human perfection. God wants your faithful obedience. You may not know what the outcome is, but you can trust that if you are walking in God's will, that outcome will be used for your good and his good and a greater kingdom good. That's the rest that you crave. And when you know you're working for the king, you don't settle for mediocrity. Speaking of eternal value, if you view this life as a resume for how you will live for the next one, oh man, that's a laziness killer. Suddenly your sense of urgency changes when you realize what you do with this day will matter in eternity. This is not to be confused with salvation. You cannot buy salvation. It is a gift freely given. But when we get to heaven, it's not eternal rest. The rest is part of it. But God is going to then give us greater responsibilities, more rewarding responsibilities based on how we steward here. all this begs a question that I've been thinking about a lot, and that's, am I working for rest or for more work? Am I working so that I will have no responsibilities in the future, or so I will have greater responsibilities? Back to the topic of salvation though, really quick. Christians make the mistake of thinking that grace is just for the next life. See, when we're saved, we don't just get an eternal spot in heaven, but we get access to an intimate relationship with God. We get His Spirit here. And that Spirit enables us to do things that we could never do on our own strength. We have the same Spirit that raised Jesus Christ from the dead. Surely that Spirit can help raise me from my bed on a Monday morning. 2 Corinthians 9:8 says, "And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work." Abound here means more than enough, to overflow. God has already given you more than what you need to succeed. Don't neglect the gift of grace. Shifting gear a little bit with root cause number 5. You have a dopamine tolerance. Remember how I said at the beginning, laziness is not about doing nothing. You know you are more than capable of sitting in front of a screen for extended periods of time, but it's what you're doing in front of that screen that makes the difference. Scrolling, watching TV, we can now get reward without having to work for it. Those things give you instant gratification, and that mindset translates to bigger things. The biggest being just living for this world and not the next one. When you have a dopamine tolerance, dopamine still signals, but your body has reduced the amount of receptors, meaning there's less of a chance for those molecules to bind to a receptor, meaning you need more stimuli to receive that same rewarding effect. It's like your brain raises the standard for pleasure. So how can you break this toxic cycle? Use dopamine to your advantage. See, dopamine, when aimed at the right thing, is an incredible tool. Dopamine makes you crave more and strive to get more of whatever is making you feel rewarded. Dopamine also allows your brain to focus on the stimuli, and it tells your brain to label that action as worth repeating. So establish boundaries from things that give you instant reward. I do not go on my phone other than to check messages before 11, I would say. I try for noon, but 10 or 11. Maybe set a day where you don't use social media. Even better, set a day where you don't even use your phone and you spend most of the day outside. Let yourself be bored for a period of time. It's like a reflex now. Whenever there's a moment of silence or boredom, when we're waiting in line, when we're at a red light, it's like, boom, okay, phone comes out. Don't do that. Let yourself be bored. Let yourself be with your thoughts. Maybe talk to someone. And by resisting that urge, you're building your discipline, which just helps with every area of your life. And when you are working on something, never let your rest breaks be more rewarding than what you're working on. If you're writing a paper and you take a 5-minute scroll break on social media, you are going to be so much less likely to want to return to that paper than if your break consisted of going for a walk or folding some laundry. By abstaining from these activities, you can actually reset your brain to now crave hard work. This is what people mean when they say dopamine detox. You're not literally detoxing your body of dopamine. It naturally produces it. It needs it. But you are detoxing from the things that give you dopamine, that pleasure chemical, without any work behind them. Okay, root cause number 6, poor nutrition. I could not make this video without mentioning diet. I don't know where you're watching this, but the top 3 sources of American calories are processed sugar, ultra-processed grains, and seed oils. Those things were never meant to enter our bodies. Not to mention, they have no nutritional value. If you have irritability, anxiety, fatigue, brain fog, hormonal imbalances, these things are all signs your body is overburdened by toxins. And when your body can't eliminate these toxins fast enough, it actually stores them in your brain tissue, in your fat, or in your organs. Constantly feeding your body these things is like sentencing it to chronic inflammation. And inflammation is linked to depression and anxiety and fatigue, all these things that can contribute to laziness. If you feel like it's hard to just get out of bed, if just responding to a text feels draining, it might be worth looking at what you're eating. I didn't realize how foundational food was to your quality of life until I went on my own health journey and was sort of forced to figure all these things out for myself because the doctors couldn't help me. And I ended up doing a complete 180 with my diet, and it changed everything. I could not do more than 10 minutes of any cognitive work without getting intense pressure in my head. When I changed my diet, I was a full-time student the next month. So I challenge you to go 1 week without sugar, ultra-processed food, seed oils, and only clean, whole, organic foods, and just notice the changes in the way that you feel. Because you will notice changes, I promise. You will be amazed at what your body is capable of doing and how much it's capable of accomplishing when you feed it the right foods. Okay, and root cause number 7, you expect motivation to come before results. It's actually the opposite. Results produce motivation. Action precedes motivation. And because you're waiting for motivation to come, you've been stagnant for much too long. It is so much easier to start from momentum than stagnation, to keep going than to get yourself going. Ironically, it's laziness that drains us. When I feel my most lazy, it's because I have been lazy that whole day. When I'm sitting on the couch, haven't really talked to anyone, haven't left the house, once I'm up and moving, I forget what it felt like to be lazy. Start with a change in your environment. If you normally work at your desk, work in the living room, work in your backyard, work on your balcony, or go to the library, find your favorite coffee shop, sit there and work. Change your outfit. That makes a much bigger difference than people realize. Don't be walking around in your pajamas expecting to function at your best. Put effort in one thing, then go put effort in something else. A simple change in environment can do wonders for your motivation and your ability to work in general. And then see who you're surrounding yourself with. There was another quote from Mindset that I saw when I was trying to find the first quote. It's talking about CEOs, but it can apply to anyone. It says, should he confront his shortcomings or create a world in which he has none? If you surround yourself with people who have the same lifestyle you currently live, who are just affirming or laughing off your laziness, you're not going to change. Don't just surround yourself with people who make you feel good. Surround yourself with people who are maybe where you want to be. And it doesn't have to be someone in person. You could listen to their podcast. You could watch their content. I used to avoid being around people who were better than me because it just made me feel bad about myself, about where I was. Let that motivate you. Learn from them. And when you're doing something and you're not particularly motivated, start small. Do something for 10 minutes. If you stop after that, fine. But at least you got something done. And more often than not, you will want to continue doing it. I can't tell you how many times I got up and I was like, I'm just going to run 2 miles. Just 2 miles, that's all. And I ended up running 2 or 3 times that much. Once you're actually in it and you're moving, you will want to do more. There's a proverb that says, a little sleep, a little slumber, and poverty will come upon you like a thief. Those little incremental excuses, just 1 more minute of scrolling, just 1 more episode, that will catch you off guard eventually with how little you've gotten done. But apply that same thing in reverse, just 1 more minute of typing, just 1 more page I'm gonna read, just 1 more mile I'm gonna run. Watch how 1 minute turns into 1 hour, like it can so easily with TikTok. So that's all for this video. I really hope that it just inspired you to get thinking about yourself and your outlook on life, purpose, and how you view and pursue work. I will probably go into each of these deeper at some point, but I hope it inspired you to start now. Do something now. Go use the Holy Spirit to abound in good works.